Cementland, Bob Cassily's unfinished masterpiece. That's next on City Corner. I'm Steve Potter, and welcome to City Corner. Richard Sprengeler is a professional and fine arts photographer, and he has a long history of documenting all sorts of things, including Cementland. Richard, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I think I should say welcome back, because I think over the years you've been here maybe twice?
3 times.
3 times, no kidding.
Yeah.
3 times over 20-something years.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's really good to have you here. Cementland, I think a lot of people know about it, a lot of people don't. Just briefly, what is Cementland?
Cementland is an abandoned 52-acre cement facility in North St. Louis that Cassily discovered, and he had the idea of turning it into an adventure theme park. And he spent the last 10 years of his life building the park.
Let me jump in. You said Cassily. We're referring to Bob Cassily, who is deceased, but he's the gentleman probably most famous for creating City Museum.
Correct. Uh-huh.
Was he an artist? What was he?
He was a sculptor. It was his main medium actually was concrete, is what he liked to work with. And he specialized in making sculptures all over the city and some around the country of using recycled materials that he found.
Now, Cementland was a project of his. He bought this deserted, abandoned facility area. It's acres and acres. And he unfortunately was killed, and we'll get into this a little bit better while he was sort of bringing it together. But he had big plans for it that never happened. So just to give people an idea, and this is on Riverview, just north of Baden. Everyone's driven by it, even if you didn't know what it was. It looks like a deserted industrial site, doesn't it?
Correct. There's a huge building and silos.
We've got a very short video here. Let's begin with that, just to kind of give people an idea. And you took all this, and you can comment on it.
This is with my iPhone. This is the main processing facility of the cement plant, and it's a huge building. It might be the biggest building in St. Louis. You could put a football field in it. In the distance here, coming up on the left, is he built the largest mound in North America, purposely larger than Monk's Mound in Cahokia State Park.
Wow.
And there's groups of silos there.
And of course, it looks kind of primitive now, and he was going to kind of make it, this is my own words, kind of an artsy Six Flags kind of thing.
Yeah, it was going to be an adventure park where people could explore the industrial sites, and it was also going to be an industrial sculpture park. He was bringing in huge pieces of machinery and putting them high up on concrete structures, and it was going to be a sculpture park also.
Now, the reason we wanted to let people know about this is that you've documented this site, and you currently have an exhibit that just went up at Central Library, part of St. Louis Public Library. This is their downtown. Main building that just went up and is going to be up until September 22nd. It is.
Correct.
Where did your idea for this come from?
Last time I was on the show, I was showing my urban decay series. And when I was photographing inside the Laclede Power Building, there was a voice behind me that said hello. It kind of frightened me. I turned around, and it was a young man with a drone, and his hobby was flying drones around abandoned spaces. And he says, "You've got to go up to Cementland. I've been flying my drone in these places." And he got his phone out, and he showed me where it was, and he showed me all the buildings on it. And the next day I was up there.
So this exhibition at Central Library is photographs that you've taken of all, just every little unknown bits and corners of this place. And it's is it something like 50-something acres?
I believe it's 52 acres, correct.
Wow. And it's all overgrown. It looks crazy. Let's go to our next video. This is something you took, and I wanted to use it because if you've never been there and don't know what we're talking about, I think this really gives you a good concept of what we're talking about. So,
Cassily was interested in ancient civilizations, and he wanted to build different parts in the park dedicated to different cultures and civilizations. This particular site, he was building a castle complex, obviously referencing feudal Europe. He also built the largest mound in North America. You can see it in the distance there, which referenced the mound builders of Cahokia Mounds. He also built a Chinese pagoda in the middle of a lagoon. And he was planning on building a 150-foot tall Mayan pyramid that was never realized. Here's a swimming pool that he put right here. It's not filled with water now. But Cassily and his workers, after a long hot day in the summer, would get into that pool and cool off. This is all structures built by Cassily. There's the distance, in the distance is the processing plant. And he cut out a funnel from that inside of that building, and he used it for the roof of this building here. And right under the roof, right there on the right, is a car jack. Apparently, when he put the cone on top, it rocked a little bit. So he wedged a car jack in there and opened it up until it made the roof sturdy.
And I'm guessing all this paint that we see is by visitors that have snuck in. That's not by
visitors.
him.
Yeah. While Cassily was alive, there was no graffiti. All the graffiti happened after the 11 years since his death. He built this bridge going across, and he built this little structure in the distance, and it's got a unique doorway there. That doorway was the chassis to his old bulldozer that bit the dust. He took the bulldozer apart and looked at that and goes, that would be a cool doorway. You know, that kind of gives you a glimpse into his creative mind, the kind of ideas that he would come up with.
Well, just go to City Museum and you can understand that.
Right, yeah. That was his studio where he was, his workshop in that building there. You see water down there now. He built a huge lagoon that was 4 or 5 acres right in the center of the property, and he was intending people to be able to canoe around the buildings and actually into the buildings.
Huh.
And there was going to be a second floor to this little structure here. You can saw the circular staircase there. And he got Gothic windows out of a church. You can see the windows right there.
It's kind of scary.
It is. It was inherently kind of dangerous. A lot of places to fall.
Now, it had been abandoned for years before he bought it, right?
Yes.
And how long did he actually work on it?
10 years.
Wow. Do you know, did he have was he just kind of taking it day by day, or did he have definite plans about what he was going to do?
I think he was winging it. There was,
That's what artists do.
Yeah, there was no blueprint. His estate wanted possibly to continue the work after he died, but he had no plans. There was nothing written down on what he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, now that you bring that up, he died in a very unfortunate accident at that site while working on this project. What can you tell us about that?
He was in his bulldozer, and he was up on top of that huge mound, and the bulldozer, he drove out onto a piece of flat concrete that was up there, and a bulldozer can dig into dirt, but not on concrete. It didn't have any traction on the concrete. And it slid sideways. A tread went off the concrete, and it flipped over and rolled down the hill. And so the rolling down the hill, he was inside the cab of the bulldozer. That's how it happened.
His wife, Giovanna, am I pronouncing that correctly? Have you gotten to know her?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I was just curious. I'd read that after his death that she tried, and I don't know to what extent, to keep this project going. Do you know anything about that?
Not too much. I think she wanted to continue it. He had a workshop there where a lot of the construction was going on, and that burned down, unfortunately, a number of years after his death. And I think the destruction of his workshop was the final straw where she gave up.
Mm-hmm. Did he still own City Museum when he died?
When he died, I am not sure. The estate does not own it now.
Right. It was a long and complicated process. I know it made a lot of news stories back in the day, this whole thing. What do you know about him personally? Maybe you don't know anything about him, like where he grew up or what he did earlier in life or anything like that?
There is a famous story about him. He gained his first notoriety in Rome. I think it was 1974. He was on his honeymoon, and that was when a mentally ill person attacked the Pieta in St. Peter's Cathedral. That's Michelangelo's famous statue of Mary holding Jesus. Right. He hit it with a hammer a number of times, then ran, and apparently he jumped up to a balcony somewhere to escape, and Cassily was there. He grabbed him around the legs and pulled him down, and he was arrested. And Cassily got his first notoriety because of that.
Wow. I wonder what would have happened if he had not passed away.
He would still be working on Cementland. I think he would have been working on it for the rest of his life, and even at that, he wouldn't have finished it. The scope of the project was so immense.
Now, you've been a photographer. I can't remember exactly what your background is. Did you work for a PR agency or something like that?
I originally did commercial photography for Dick Voiles and Associates. It's a large commercial studio in St. Louis.
Uh-huh.
I did that for 20 years, and then after that, I transitioned into architectural photography.
For a profession?
For a profession, yeah. Architectural.
How do you make money taking photographs of architecture?
The main clients are architects. Whenever they have a building built, they want to show it to their clients, and they need high-quality photographs of buildings taken of their buildings.
So are you have you been officially retired from?
No, I'm still working.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. COVID has kind of put a dent on everyone's business, so it's kind of slowed down, but I'm still working.
Yeah. Have you? Has that been your profession since day one, or have you done other things in your life?
Originally, I was a musician. I got into photography via music. I think there's a lot in common between the two, in particular, an instrument in your hand. You know, that's the common link between music and photography. Uh-huh. And just being a person who wants to be creative, you know, so the transition was natural. Ansel Adams was a concert pianist.
Right. Were you in a band or something?
I was. Yeah, I was in many bands. I first started out when I graduated from high school. I auditioned for the Navy music program and passed. And the second 2 years, I was touring Europe in a Navy jazz band for 2 years.
Wow. Now,
That's how I got interested in photography. I was touring Europe for 2 years, and I wanted to take pictures of all this grand architecture I was seeing.
well, we need to take a quick break, Richard.
Okay.
And when we come back, we have more to talk about Bob Cassily and Cementland. So stay with us.
There's so many reasons to love St. Louis, you can't pick just one.
What I love about St. Louis is the 79 unique neighborhoods and 108 beautiful city parks, including Forest Park, which is actually larger than Central Park in New York, and the gorgeous Tower Grove Park right here.
And there's always something new to experience, no matter the time of day or the season. So come and experience St. Louis.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable. The sad reality is, fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
I'm Steve Potter. Welcome back to City Corner. We're visiting with Richard Sprengeler. Richard is a professional and fine arts photographer. He has done a series of photographs that sort of document Bob Cassilly's Cementland, and that exhibition is currently up at the Public Library, downtown Central Library. And of course, this isn't all you do. You talked about you had a career as a professional photographer, or still do, excuse me. I wanted to kind of share with our viewers just a look at some of the other things you do because it's so different. And I know you've done a lot of series. If you go to your website, which we'll have a link to later, I know you've done a series on old cars and several things, one of them landscapes.
I originally wanted to be a landscape photographer. I saw Ansel Adams's work when I was first getting into photography, and I was mesmerized by it. And unfortunately, it's hard to do that type of landscape work here in the Midwest. So I was looking for the next grand, big thing to photograph besides mountains, and obviously it's the architecture of St. Louis.
All right, well, let's take a look at a few of your landscape shots. And obviously, that was not taken here.
Yeah, this is the coastline of Oregon. Oregon's really unique in that the entire coast, from Washington down to California, is open land, open to the public. Many, many state parks, but you can pull off the highway anywhere in Oregon and go down to the beach, and you can't do that in California and Washington.
Let's go to the next one.
This is Yellowstone National Park, Mammoth Hot Springs. All of this work is heavily influenced by Ansel Adams. Obviously, the biggest thing is that the use of the black and white medium. There's a famous quote by Elliot Erwitt where he says, "Color is descriptive, black and white is expressive."
I agree with that. What is this, a cemetery?
This is some graves in Tumacacori Mission in southern Arizona.
All right.
It's interesting. Ansel Adams photographed this scene also 40 years ago, but he shot it from the other corner of the graveyard.
Yeah, if we go to your website, we'll see landscapes of the old cars, and you've got a couple other categories I can't think of off the top of my head.
I've got a lot of travel photography. I've been to China, Italy, Ireland, the old cars, many, many things.
All right, let's get back to Bob Cassily and Cementland. That's the exhibition at the Central Library, and the one we're looking at today. And we've got another, this is just a short video. Let's talk about that, and then after this, we'll look at some of your individual shots. But you went there to this deserted cement land and just looked around.
This is inside the main processing plant. He was intending to fill that space there, as big as a football field, with a forest of dead trees. And surround it with water so people could canoe into the building. There was going to be waterfalls. He got a hold of the bed of a huge mining dump truck, one of these dump trucks that you see in these huge open pit mines that are 10 times larger than a regular dump truck. And he was going to install that bed up in the air like he's got at the City Museum behind the whale, where it would slowly fill up with water until it reached a tipping point, and then it would dump. Imagine 1,000 gallons of water rushing out of this building and down into the lagoon. Here's my 4x5-inch view camera.
That's what you take photographs with? You're an old-fashioned guy, aren't you?
I still shoot 4x5 film with that camera. I do a lot of digital also, and I've got the iPhone in my hand right now. This is going down a large tunnel, long tunnel from the main processing plant down into the ground, about 40 feet under the ground, and straight above this far room is a grate where the trucks that were coming into the cement plant with limestone would dump the limestone down the hole into this huge pit, and there was a conveyor belt that I would be walking on now if it was still there. And the limestone would be drawn up from this subterranean chamber all the way up into the processing plant, and then it was crushed and baked, I guess. You have to bake limestone in order to make cement. And so here's the room in about 35 feet under the ground. And then there's a view looking straight up at it where you can see where the trucks would pull over it and then dump everything.
You could almost do a show on the graffiti.
Yes. There's where the limestone would be dumped down into the room.
Did you actually know Bob Cassily?
I met him once at the City Museum just briefly, and I said, "Bob, is it true about you and the Pieta?" And he smiled. He said, "Yep, it's true."
Well, how did he come off to you? Did he seem like a Nice,
Oh, he was
approachable guy?
He was a very nice guy, yeah.
Yeah. You have an interesting story because, tell me if I'm right, I think maybe all this kind of came on your radar. Didn't you take your daughter when she was young once to City Museum? Is that how this all started?
I took my daughter almost every weekend for years, starting when she was about 5 years old. And at that time, you could buy a season pass for relatively cheap. And I was down there all the time with my daughter. She just loved it. Yeah.
And you got hooked.
And I got hooked.
Yeah. Let's look at some of the shots that you took with one of your cameras down there. And these are all in the current exhibition at Central Library.
Yes, they are. This is, you can see in the far distance, you can see the largest mound in North America. And to the left of it is a group of 8 silos that are engulfed by this mound. He actually drove his bulldozer off of the mound and on top of those silos once.
Did he come off like a big, strong, brave guy? Because that's what I would think he'd have to be.
It was a combination of that and maybe a little reckless at the same time.
Let's go next one.
This is some of the buildings that this is going to be filled with the lagoon with water, and people were going to be able to canoe into here. And you can see a doorway there on the right. He wanted people to actually canoe into this building. There's a huge smokestack in the distance that was over 200 feet tall. He was going to build a circular staircase inside of it and outside of it, all the way up to the top. He wanted people to go up to the top and be able to throw rocks off of it.
I'm wondering how you know all this. Did he have all these plans like written out?
No, I had 2 long conversations, one with Kurt Nickmeyer and one with Bill Richardson, who both worked with Cassily.
After he passed away?
After he passed away. When I was planning this show that's up right now, I contacted them to get more information.
What's this?
This is inside one of the silo buildings, and there was originally funnels. There's a silo going straight up here, 4 floors, and Cassily, with a welding torch, cut the metal funnel out. At the top, you can see cut lines. In the distance, there's one funnel still left that came all the way down to the floor.
Let's go on the next one.
This is looking straight up to the top of that silo after he cut the funnel out.
Let me ask you a couple things. Well, go ahead and comment. Well, we'll go back to that.
Okay.
As I understand, a lot of this has been come down. Do you know what's left there as we speak?
The last time I was there was August of last year, and a month before that, the new owners had taken possession of it and started to dismantle the property.
Trucking companies bought it, and they're going to tear it down, right? Everything.
They are, yeah. I was able to see the mound for the first. I didn't even know that mound was there until the trucking company took possession of it and tore all the trees down. Then that's when I actually saw that there was a huge mound there. The first thing they did was they started hauling all the dirt down from the mound and spreading it out on the property, and so all the buildings were starting to be engulfed by dirt. And when I stopped photographing there, about a tenth of the mound was down. There's so much dirt there. I'm not sure what they're going to do with it. I'm not sure if they knew that there was that much dirt there.
This place became an interesting place at 2 different time periods. Once after it was abandoned, before he bought it for however many years that was. Then after he died and wasn't there, it sort of has been famous as a place for maybe people sneaking into, hanging out. What do you know about that?
Urban explorers. All of the graffiti that you see in these photographs were made by people that had snuck into the property. I met a lot of people in there that were just coming in to explore. A lot of teenagers, younger people who like to do that type of thing.
So, but we're not recommending people go out there now.
I don't think there's anything left of it. I haven't been up there since August.
And it is private property.
And it is private property, yeah.
Yeah. Did you do this exhibition? Are you afraid people will forget about this?
That's one of the reasons why I'm having the exhibition. I want to promote, the legacy of Bob Cassily. As a musician, it kind of reminds me of Schubert's Unfinished Symphony. And that's where the inspiration for titling this Bob Cassily's Unfinished Masterpiece came from.
Yeah. Let's look at a few more pictures that you took while you were out there. And these are actual pictures that are at Central Library till September 22nd.
Yes, this is inside that huge building. In the foreground, you see all this piled up dirt. All behind the camera, he bulldozed in dirt and filled up the first floor, and he was building tunnels through the dirt. For what reason besides just exploring? You know, this is in the main processing plant. And he cut the bottom part of these funnels off with a welding torch. They used to come down a lot closer to the ground.
You said he actually had people work with him, though, right?
He had 20 employees working with him. And the interesting thing about it is that he built that mound by charging construction companies, allowing them to dump their excess dirt from construction projects on the site. And at times, as much as 100 truckloads were arriving a day, and he would charge them per truckload. And I did some math, and it comes out to close to $1 million a year that he was making just allowing them to put dirt on the property.
Wow.
So, you know, that's how he could afford to work there for 10 years and 20 employees.
Most creative people don't make money. I'll just throw that in there.
Bill Richardson said he's the only artist that he knows that had a good business sense.
What's this?
This was in the video. That's that swimming pool that I had said. And the you can't see it right now, but the roof of that little structure had the jack in there, so to keep it steady. This is the chassis to the bulldozer that he put in there. You know, that gives you an insight into his mind. Most people would see that and go, well, just scrap it. But he thought, oh, that's a doorway. I think I'll haul it up 40 feet up in the air with a crane and make a doorway and build a building around it. You know, that's Bob Cassilly's genius.
Well, we really appreciate that you've done this to help remember him and honor him. Real quickly, the exhibition is up until September 22nd at Central Library, so people should go check that out. But they should also check out your website if they're interested in photography. We talked about your landscape series. You do things on old cars, and there are other topics I've written down somewhere. Parking garages. You have a series on parking garages.
Parking garage, abstractions.
Why should people go to your website?
To buy photographs.
I was going to mention that actually your work is for sale.
It is for sale, correct. Yeah. Just to see what I've done.
And you've got something coming in October.
In October, I have a large show at Merrimack Community College. It opens October the 4th. And it's a show, Landscapes, Cityscapes, showing the two parts of my work.
Richard Sprengeler, we will look forward to it. And thank you for coming back for your fourth time in 20-something years to my show. I appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
Cementland, Bob Cassilly's unfinished masterpiece through September 22nd, St. Louis Public Library, downtown. And go to richardsprengeler.com to find out more about it. And thank you so much. It's been a delight. I can't wait to see the exhibition.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Potter. Thank you for watching today and join us on the next City Corner.